What's being done to make it right for those thrown out onto the street?
I ain't still homeboy.
No comment.
Get the camera off.
I have not heard that it's been going on for a long time until I first heard it from you.
Are these folks lying? No, I don't believe they're lying. I was locked out of the office today. My 3-part investigative series starts here tonight.
It's shocking and shameful.
I set out to get answers. The trail took me halfway around the world. We never want a Cameron Dale to happen again.
Correct, that's correct.
And unfortunately it did 8 months later. I've worked all day trying to mow down the truth. The owners of Vista Shadow Mountain, so buried in LLCs, pest control company claims its team of experts didn't find a single bed bug at DPS. Within 5 minutes of being inside Eastgate Metroplex, I was on Facebook Live. I turned over every single chair. I found more than 24 of them on 17 chairs. Chairs that folks would have been sitting on today had DPS open.
This got all clear from American Services. Dave, not one bed bug.
I understand.
Was detected.
And I passed that information on to you and others, and now we find out it's not true.
Eastgate tells me with my discovery today, they will likely get a second opinion.
You've called my office. You've called everyone.
I've been trying to call each day, but I haven't been able to get anybody at the front office.
You have to back up off our property, I'm sorry.
Under the emergency order, nearly 20 people are still tonight living in hotels on the brink of homelessness. Aside from a huddle, was there anything tangible that was done after Cameron Dale died to ensure that that wouldn't happen again?
Not really.
He tells me Ryland was suicidal and homicidal at the time that he was placed with the Tulsa Boys Home.
We're going to find out every step of the way of why Ryland Harris was in there.
He tells me 13-year-old Ryland was placed into DHS custody after trying to kill his mother. What role does DHS play in this story? Is there anything that you found as far as policies or procedures or anything that wasn't followed or that made you pause for concern that it could happen again?
So that would not be information that we would share.
I find that inexcusable.
Do you recall any conversations at all with DHS about feeling pressured at all to keep Ryland?
Not at all.
Justin Brown, the Oklahoma Department of Human Services director, recently declined my request for an interview. Believe that Ryland Harris ever should have been placed at the Tulsa Boys Home?
I'm not going to talk about Ryland Harris's case.
Conway tells me 90% of his runaway reports come from children placed through DHS. These are just from the sheriff's office. And I'm curious as to your reaction to those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, those are numbers. What would you like to talk about with them?
So the big question remains here tonight. After Cameron and Ryland died, what, if anything, has been done to make sure that another tragedy doesn't happen at the Tulsa Boys Home? Tomorrow night, part 3, the tough questions continue.
It is not good.
Just as concerned as Joe is Oklahoma State Rep J.D. Nolan. The Tulsa Boys Home is in her district. The Tulsa County Sheriff's Office tells me they've responded so far to 16 runaway calls at the Tulsa Boys Home since the start of my investigation on January 1st. The questions I have for the owner are simple. How could this happen? And what's being done to make it right for those thrown out onto the street? But I quickly discovered answers will be tough to come by. 3 Points Realty Group is based in New Jersey, and its portfolio is impressive, with apartment complexes in Houston, Chicago, Atlanta, and New York City. This is a look at its executive team, but good luck getting a hold of any of them. We'll talk about that more in a minute. At the top, founder and CEO Michael Sabo. According to his bio, Sabo started the company in 2011, a company that has now acquired more than $450 million in multifamily properties with 4,000 units scattered across the United States. The only property 3 Points Realty owns in Oklahoma, Vista Shadow Mountain, which the Tulsa Fire Marshal shut down on July 23rd.
I've not seen anything like it.
Andy Teeter has been with the Tulsa Fire Department for 27 years, and he tells me he has never seen a property worse than the conditions at Vista Shadow Mountain.
Like more than one unit of sheetrock was missing. 25, 50, 70, 80% of the sheetrock missing.
Down to the wooden studs and with exposed wires. Teeter says if there was a fire, an entire building would go up into flames in minutes. A life-threatening danger that left his office with no other choice but to issue a 30-day notice for everyone to move. It has now been nearly 3 months, and many are eager to learn what the plan is moving forward.
We need them to come up with a plan from a design or building professional that's an evaluation of the entire complex and what needs to happen to bring it up to where it's livable again. So,
have they presented a plan to you yet?
I've not seen one.
In an effort to get answers, I started climbing the ladder at 3 Points Realty Partners, starting with Andrea Ferber.
Yeah, so I'm just
paper. Okay. Can I give you my email and I will let someone get in touch with you.
Those emails didn't get me anywhere. Next, Corey Isdander, Vice President of Acquisitions.
Brian, I don't really want to answer too many questions about this. I'm not going to continue further, but I have to go.
Corey says he hasn't worked for 3 Points Realty in more than a year, but one person we know is still on the job, founder and CEO Michael Sabo. Sabo is also the CEO of Cityr Group with international properties, many of them in Israel.
You've called me 5 times today. You've called my office. You've called everyone. I'm getting emails. I am entitled to work, right?
Sir, you told me last week that there was going to be...
And I did, and I relayed the message to who is taking care. Then I will follow up with them. It could be they're not ready to call you, or they're not in a position where they're ready to do an interview.
Would you be willing to do an interview?
No, I will not. There are people who are handling this matter. I forwarded the message to them, and they will get in touch with you.
With no answers from New Jersey, we tried closer to home. Michael Sabo's team hired Stephen Gray with Sterling Oaks Law Firm here in Broken Arrow. Stephen declined my numerous requests for an in-person interview. I was locked out of the office today, but I was able to reach Stephen by phone.
May I make an unsolicited suggestion or observation?
Sure.
I am absolutely convinced, having been a real estate attorney, that these type of issues are not unique to any one particular complex.
That unsolicited suggestion or observation, Stephen Gray and those at Sterling Oaks Law Office didn't want you to hear, according to his assistant, Margaret.
We do understand that it was a recorded conversation, but we honestly do not want you to use any of that. And we're trying to be as cooperative as possible, but if you could please respect that and just, we're just trying to get stuff done here, and it's just kind of rude of you to be pushing this on us.
And we gave Michael Sabo and his legal team one more opportunity to do the right thing and go on the record, even to say they disagree with the decision by the city's fire marshal to force everyone out. And this is the response we got when I tried one more time to get even an organized written statement from attorney Stephen Gray with Sterling Oaks Law Firm. Listen.
Brian Dorman, were you from the news?
I am. I'm with News on 6.
Okay, I'm sorry. We really don't want to make any comments.
Okay. I'd really like to speak with Mr. Gray if he's available, please.
I'm sure you do, but he has said before that he doesn't want to speak on the matter, so I'm really sorry. I can't have you talk to him.
On several occasions, I offered to meet with attorney Stephen Gray. We even offered to fly to New Jersey to sit down in person with Michael Sabo. Both offers still stand, by the way. And one reason they may be a little bit skittish, a class action lawsuit's in the works right now from those who lived at Vista Shadow Mountain. I've also been able to confirm through 2 sources that an insurance fraud investigation is underway right now against 3 Points Realty. I'll keep you posted on that.
I think it rises above negligence. I think this place needs to be investigated for criminal negligence because something has terribly gone wrong.
We announced last night a lawsuit is now in the works against the Tulsa Boys Home and DHS in response to the deaths of 2 boys who ran away from the facility. In March of last year, 14-year-old Cameron Dale was hit and killed on Highway 51. In December, 13-year-old Rylan Harris drowned in the Arkansas River, prompting an investigation by the Oklahoma Commission on Children and Youth.
There is no doubt over the past 103 years, the Tulsa Boys Home and its volunteers have had a positive impact on nearly 14,000 boys in our area. But with the deaths of Cameron and Rylan, I wanted to look into policy, procedures, state law, and safety. My 3-part investigative series begins here tonight with a growing concern over children running away from the Tulsa Boys Home. This report from the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office shows last year, deputies were called to the Tulsa Boys Home 226 times after a child ran off from the facility. As you can see, those numbers have grown over the past 5 years, from 93 in 2018 and 101 in 2019. One of those calls came on March 25th, when 14-year-old Cameron Dale ran off with a friend in the middle of the night. Cameron was hit and killed on Highway 51.
Oh, this is the dormitory where the boys sleep.
Tulsa Boys Home Executive Director Greg Conway tells me it was the first death in the program's 103-year history.
And when something like this happens to one of our boys, yeah, we feel that, acutely. We feel responsible for that, even though everything that could possibly done was done.
Conway says Cameron was privately placed by his parents into the facility's substance abuse treatment program. He was there just 9 days before going AWOL.
We had no indication that he would be what we call a flight risk or an AWOL risk or anything of that sort.
But Cameron's mom, Lindsay, tells me Cameron had a history of running away from home and sneaking out in the middle of the night. He was even placed on probation after a run-in with police, where Lindsay tells me Cameron resisted arrest and even kicked a police officer. His probation officer and judge recommended the Tulsa Boys Home. Lindsay says Cameron was ready to get help and excited about the therapy programs. She tells me what she doesn't understand is how after her son died, 9 months later it would happen again with the death of 13-year-old Rylan Harris.
Should Rylan Harris ever have been at the Tulsa Boys Home?
Never. He absolutely never should have been there.
Cameron Spradling represents the family of Rylan Harris.
That family knew that boy for 13 years. They knew what was getting ready to be unleashed in that boys' home. And they knew something bad, horrible, was going to happen, and they begged for it not to happen.
Rylan was an addict at birth, experiencing meth withdrawals on the way home from the hospital. His adoptive parents, Kim and Ryan, tell me he was medicated at just 18 months and in and out of psychiatric and treatment programs his entire life. He was placed in DHS custody after trying to kill his mom in 2019. While she was driving with her 2 other kids in the car, Rylan tried to smother her with a blanket and then with his hands. Facing a felony and now as a ward of the state, Rylan was placed in a lockdown mental health facility.
They begged DHS. They said he is not safe to himself in such a place, and he is not safe to others.
Despite the warning from Rylan's parents, Spradling says Rylan was removed from the mental health facility and placed in the care of Greg Conway and the Tulsa Boys Home.
Should Rylan Harris ever have been placed here at the Tulsa Boys Home?
Well, Rylan fit the profile of a type of a boy that gets placed with Tulsa Boys Home on a regular basis.
In the 8 weeks that Rylan was at the Tulsa Boys Home, Spradling tells me he ran away more than 20 times. On one of those occasions, Rylan stole a golf cart and was arrested while driving down Highway 51, leading to his second felony.
In the first week he was here, he ran away 5 times. He went AWOL 5 times. And then he seemed to settle down, and he was doing remarkably well here for the rest of the time that he was here up until the time that he died.
Something you should know about the Tulsa Boys Home, it's not a lockdown facility, and there are state laws in place that prohibit employees from being able to restrain a child unless they're believed to be a threat to themselves or a threat to others. That means at any time, the 40 children placed by DHS or the 24 privately placed boys in the drug and alcohol treatment program can essentially leave.
Aside from a huddle, was there anything tangible that was done after Cameron Dale died to ensure that that wouldn't happen again?
Not really, because when we debriefed and assessed our protocols, we already are doing everything that can be done.
Tomorrow night, our investigation takes us to Oklahoma City, where I met with the director of child welfare with DHS. What role does DHS play in this story? And does the director feel like it was a mistake by placing Rylan Harris at the Tulsa Boys Home? There is so much more to this story, and we'll have it for you tomorrow night right here at 9 o'clock.